Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar on behalf of MJ Flood, our premier partner for ARCserve in Ireland, and CA Technologies. We're going to talk to you today about our backup and replication technology, specifically to protect virtual and physical server infrastructure. My name is Charlie Smith. I work in the UK and Ireland pre-sales team, looking after pre-sales, and I'm going to talk to you today, give you a nice overview of some of the new exciting technologies we have under ARCserve now to protect your infrastructure running your business critical applications. And I'm also going to touch on some of our new generation of licensing as well. So without any further ado, I'm going to get started. So ARCserve is a single integrated platform designed to provide data protection, data recovery, disaster recovery and business continuity of your critical server infrastructure. We have a single platform designed for ease of management and use. It's designed to protect both your physical and virtual server infrastructure in a consistent way, so you can design backup and data protection policies that can be applied to both your physical and virtual infrastructure and provide a consistent way to monitor and manage the backups in your environment. We also provide on-premise and cloud protection of your backup and recovery sets. Also, we have full integration with different disaster recovery environments, and we can work with managed service providers as well. ARCserve fully supports all the latest applications from Microsoft, covering databases and applications and email systems. We've also got full support for Linux environments and Unix environments as well. Some of the key technologies that we have in ARCserve cover traditional file level backup, also a new generation of incremental forever backup to disk, and also full integration and replication and high availability for disaster recovery and business continuity. One of the unique things about ARCserve is the fact that it has consistent functionality across different types of environments, and we have everything from full system recovery to automated disaster recovery and granular day-to-day restores of useful data sets such as Exchange email items, document level recovery in SharePoint, file and folder level restores, and also strong system level protection for bare metal recovery of physical and virtual infrastructure. We also have some very clever licensing options around our managed capacity and our per socket licensing, and today I'm going to talk specifically around our per socket licensing program. One of the big features that we launched in the latest release of ARCserve 16.5 is full Windows Server 2012 support and Windows 8 support. CA were very quick to certify the Windows 2012 platform, and this wasn't just a case of certifying a new version of Windows Server. There is a lot of new enhancements made in the Windows Server 2012 platform that required significant development, such as support for NTFS deep volumes and data deduplication, restricted file systems, a whole new generation of virtualization under HyperV version 3, and also some of their storage integration around distributed volume shadow copy services and storage spaces, which is a form of storage virtualization that can be applied to direct attached storage connected into a Windows 2012 architecture. We also developed a new capability called Remote to Virtual Standby for our D2D backup image technology, which allows you to create automated VM clones of your production environment from the backup recovery points taken on disk. What this means is that if you incur a major outage, instead of you having to do a reactive recovery of a server after a server fails, we can just power on a VM clone of that production system, be it a physical or a virtual server that was protected by your backup policy, and that clone can be started up onto a Hyper-V or a VMware virtual host immediately to take over the support for the business. We've also certified new generation of Microsoft platforms around Exchange 2013 and SharePoint 2013, but we also have legacy support all the way back to Exchange 2003, SharePoint 2007, SQL 2005 all the way up to SQL 2012. And so this isn't just about protection of new infrastructure, which we do very well. We can also provide full support for your legacy environment as well. We've also support and certified a new generation of clustering from Microsoft called AAG clusters, SQL 2012. We've also certified the latest tape drive support, LTO6, which is just hitting the markets now, which provides very, very fast backup to tape performance and capacity on tape as well. And we've also certified the latest release of vSphere 5.1 all the way up to update 1 now. So any customer in a virtual environment or they're wanting to use virtual environment for their disaster recovery is fully supported. Now what I'm going to do now is talk through some different use cases of how our technology can apply to your infrastructure. First use case is your on-premise data protection. We see a lot of customers now moving away from backing up to tape to implement more disk-to-disk based backups. There's a lot of benefits using disk technology for backup. It tends to be easier to manage. There's less chance of backup failures caused by bad tapes or media if you're backing up to disk. And also a lot of the new virtual server host-based integration across HyperV and VMware works better when you're snapshotting from disk to disk. So we have full D2D technology in the ARCserve portfolio, which just captures the change blocks on an ongoing basis. So it uses VMware change block tracking for virtual environments, but it also uses our own change block tracking to manage physical environments, so we can just capture the changed data. And this technology really allows you to shrink down your backup windows by just capturing the change data on a daily basis or on an hourly basis, depending on how often you want to take your recovery points to disk. But for a lot of organizations, tape is still a fundamental part of the solution where they need to keep long-term backup sets, so we can do full disk to tape migration and recover at folder or file level or database level from any backup recovery point taken. So you have the ease of disk to tape migration, but the ability to do one-step restore straight from tape if the data that you're looking for is no longer on your backup to disk storage. We also have a solution to take care of remote branch office protection, and for a lot of companies, having remote satellite offices is very common. You'll have a sort of main IT room or data center, and then you may have satellite offices around the country which may be running just Active Directory or file and print. For some customers, they may be running SQL and other applications as well. And what a lot of our customers are doing now is they're getting rid of tape at these remote sites, which can be unreliable, and often non-IT people are expected to change tapes, and this is another reason why backups can fail regularly. So by moving this architecture to a disk-based backup solution at each of the sites, we can then leverage replication technology to replicate the recovery points. And bear in mind, we're only capturing the daily changes or the incremental changes. So when we do upload these changes to a central site from the remote sites, we're only capturing a small amount of data each time. So it's not going to flood your wide area networks or your MPLS connections with traffic. So once that data has been copied or replicated across to your central site, we can also do disk-to-tape copies of that remote site backup data. So if your organization still needs to keep backup sets on tape for a long period of time, we can do the disk-to-disk to give you fast backup and restore. Maybe set a policy, for example, to keep 30 days worth of recovery points on disk. Anything older than that gets sent off to tape, and you can keep that tapes for as long as you need, the business requires. We also have a solution for disaster recovery as well, where we can replicate either backup recovery points between sites to a central DR location. We also have the ability to do live replication of production servers as well. So what this means is if you're running more critical servers where any amount of data loss or downtime would cause an impact to the business, we can provide real-time protection of your more critical servers, and we can provide application-aware protection as well if required around SQL Exchange, Oracle, SharePoint, etc. And the other scenario that we support is a technology called Virtual Standby, which I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, which allows you to automate disaster recovery clones into your DR virtual environment from the backup recovery points taken on disk. And I'll explain a bit more about how that works as we go through the presentation. We even have customers doing disk-to-tape migration at the DR site rather than doing it at the production site, and this way that your tapes are immediately off-site once you create your tape copies. So it can save you operational expenditure by, instead of having to get a company to come and collect your tapes immediately, you can keep your tapes at the DR environment for longer periods of time before they're shipped off-site because they're already in the DR location. We also have full integration into a lot of public cloud providers now, and in Ireland especially, you're quite fortunate that you have a Microsoft Windows Azure data center in Dublin, an Amazon S3 data center in Ireland as well. So that means for a lot of SMB and smaller organizations who may not necessarily have their own disaster recovery site or capability, they can leverage the public cloud to provide off-site data protection of some of your more critical data sets. And we have full integration with the ARCserve technologies into public cloud providers as well. So that's kind of a use case of some of the ways that ARCserve can be deployed to protect your data in your on-premise location, your remote satellite offices, how we provide disaster recovery, and also how we can leverage the cloud for disaster recovery as well. I just want to talk through some of the exciting enhancements that we've made over the last couple of years, especially around ARCserve. We've now got agentless backup for virtual environments, for example. So if you're running VMware or ESXi hosts in your environment, we can take advantage of the vStorage or the vAPI integration that allows us to discover all your virtual servers through vCenter or your ESXi architecture, and then we can build a list of servers that we want to manage for backup, set up the backup policy, and remotely connect into these virtual hosts, initiate backup by snapshotting the virtual servers. And one of the things that we do, which is very clever, is we integrate with a technology called change block tracking, which is part of the VMware architecture, and that lets us know what blocks have changed every time we create an incremental snapshot. So when we're doing the backups, we have a very intelligent way of doing an agentless backup, capturing the change blocks. We can even back up SQL and Exchange environments completely agentless as well using this integration. And from those backup images, we can recover at folder or file level. We can recover SQL and Exchange databases. And we also have email item recovery with our D2D technology as well. Now, what this slide is also showing is that we have the ability to migrate data from your backup repository, which is your fairly short to medium-term retention of recovery points. And then if you have a requirement then to move those sessions or copy them off for longer-term retention somewhere else, we fully integrate with our ARCserve backup engine, which allows you to do disk to cloud, disk to tape, or disk to disk migration onto a lower cost of storage, which can be deduplicated for longer terms. And then through ARCserve Backup, we can also do folder and file level restores. So you may have a policy to keep 30 days worth of recovery points in your D2D technology for fast day-to-day recovery of files, folders, or systems. But for compliance reasons, you may be asked to bring back a project from 12 months ago or even longer. And we have the ability to do that tracking and recovery of older data sets as well through our backup technology. We also have a similar solution for HyperV environments where we can integrate with the HyperV hosts and create hypervisor snapshot-based backups of the virtual guest servers running in a HyperV environment. We can then back them up to disk and tape using the same technology as I was showing you with the VMware slide. Obviously, we're using the Microsoft APIs now to do this, but it provides a similar capability where we can snapshot the virtual guest servers and also take care of SQL and Exchange backup through these virtual guest servers as well, and the ability to migrate from our short-term backup repository into ARCserve Backup for disk to tape or disk to cloud or disk to disk migration, and then also recover long-term sessions through ARCserve Backup. We've also got image-based backup to disk and tape as well of physical servers, so similar to what I was describing before. We also have the ability to do this in physical server environments, which is quite unique in today's technology. There's a lot of niche virtual solutions on the market that provide very good protection of virtual environments, but then if you have physical servers in your environment, you then have to rely on a completely different technology to protect those. So with the ARCserve technology now, we can provide leading edge technology to protect your virtual environment and have a consistent way also to back up your physical servers by doing incremental snapshot technology on those. One of the big advantages that we have with our our physical backups is that we also provide very strong bare metal recovery protection from those server images, as well as being able to do day-to-day recovery of folders, files, emails, and complete volumes. We can also do full bare metal recovery of those systems, where we can recover that system from physical to alternative hardware. We can do physical to virtual disaster recovery, obviously virtual to virtual, and even virtual back to physical. So you could be backing up VMware or HyperV guests, and you could actually recover that image back to a physical server if required. So it's very flexible and easy to use, and we have lots of customers now running with our BMR technology to protect their infrastructure. These are just some of the interfaces, because obviously I'm not doing a demo today. It was just nice to show you some of the interface and what the technology looks. And when you come to do a restore, it's quite exciting that we can actually recover in different ways from a single snapshot taken of your system. So if you need to do a day-to-day restore, we can go into an interface called Browse Recovery Points. Gives you a nice simple calendar. I can see the snapshots and what dates that were taken. Highlight a snapshot, it will give me a view of all the NTFS volumes. I can drill down into the volumes to select folders and files to restore. In the same view, if that server is running SQL Server on Microsoft Exchange, we also invoke the VSS writer technology to back up the databases. So if I'm running SQL and I need to recover an individual database, I can just open up the SQL instance, drill down, select the individual database to restore. And the nice thing is, because we're using Microsoft VSS as the underlying snapshot technology, we're not doing anything proprietary here. We're leveraging the integration into the operating system to recover these data sets, and the same for Exchange. In the bottom right-hand corner there, we have a nice search facility, and this is really useful if you have end users that lose files and they forget what day the last version of the file was deleted. Sometimes they can't even tell you if it was a PowerPoint or an Excel, but they know the name of the file. So this, you can do nice easy wildcard searches looking for files, and it will show you any version of the files containing that search string, and the administrator can just select the version and just restore very easy. We also have the bare metal recovery interface in the top right hand corner there, which is a Windows Microsoft pre-installation boot image that we modify and create, which allows you to boot up any Windows server from 2003 all the way up to Windows 2012, or from Windows XP all the way up to Windows 8 if you're using it on workstations. And then within a few minutes we can do a BMR recovery of a system. You can also remaster the image to use your vendor-specific drivers and reformat the partitions on the disk, etc. So it's using all the Microsoft interfaces behind our interfaces to make it very easy and very intuitive to do a system recovery. We've also introduced email item recovery as well, so if you're using D2D to protect your Exchange environment, we can actually, from a single snapshot, recover the whole Exchange server, the Exchange databases, files and folders, and even Exchange email items down to individual mailbox users from a single snapshot. So it's very, very powerful but easy to use, and the interfaces, as you can see, are very intuitive and easy to navigate around. We've also, in the summer there, just introduced D2D for Linux. So we have a lot of customers running Red Hat servers, or CentOS, which is the kind of free version of Red Hat, and Oracle Linux as well, where they may be running Oracle databases on Linux, and they want the ability to do incremental snapshot technology on a Linux environment. So with the D2D for Linux now, we can almost do a kind of agentless backup using NFS as the protocol to protect Linux volumes on a server. And we also have the ability to do bare metal recovery of any Linux server, including remote BMR using the PXE technology, where we can do a remote boot and actually do a bare metal recovery over the network. As you can see there from the screenshots, all the interfaces are web enabled, very easy to navigate and set up. And this is all included as part of our kind of per socket licensing, which I'll talk about shortly. We also have some really leading replication technology as part of the ARCserve offering as well. And this integrated replication provides the ability to replicate different types of data. We can use it to replicate backup recovery points between ARCserve D2D and ARCserve Backup, from your production environment to your remote environments, or from satellite offices to a central site, for example. The replication technology provides a synchronous block level replication. It's host-based, so it's completely storage agnostic. So we don't really care what the underlying storage topology is between your environments. You could be replicating virtual servers in a free parsan, for example, to a couple of blade servers in a DR rack with local attached or direct attached storage. So the underlying infrastructure can be completely different, and we can replicate backup recovery points or complete system images or just applications specific sets between servers in your environment. The replication technology is very much mature. It allows you to synchronize data sets. We even have an option called offline sync. So if you have kind of backup sets that you need to get to a central site, but they're relatively large in size, and you don't want to synchronize this large chunk of data across a fairly small, restricted, wide area network, we can actually create an offline image which you copy to a USB drive or a NAS drive or back off to tape, and then we can actually move that data to the central site, seed it on the servers where it needs to go, and then when we start the replication scenario, it'll just synchronize very quickly and go into real-time byte-level detection mode. So as a block of data changes, it then just gets trickled across the link to your other server. It allows you to do things like WAN optimization, so we can do bandwidth throttling. We've even got multi-stream replication to break up large packets into smaller packets. We can compress data before we replicate it. So there's a lot of functionality in there designed to optimize fairly slow links, so you can leverage those links for disaster recovery. We've also got a technology called virtual standby and remote virtual standby, and I mentioned this at the start of my presentation, and what this does is it automates the disaster recovery process for you. A lot of customers want to set up a DR environment. They want the ability that if any of their production servers fail, either at server level or an environment level, i.e. site level, you want to have the ability to switch over as quickly as possible to the DR environment. Now, a lot of customers struggle with this because they can put the infrastructure in place, you know, the storage, the virtual environment, but then when a DR situation occurs, they end up having to spend a lot of time then recovering server images, which is a very kind of reactive way to do DR. Now, with virtual standby technology, what we can do is we can back up physical or virtual servers to a central disk repository. We can then use the ARCserve replication technology to replicate those backup recovery points to your DR environment. And from that DR environment, we can then convert those backup recovery points on disk into bootable VMs, into either a HyperV or a VMware environment. And what this allows you to do is once we create the virtual clones, which are mirrored copies of your production physical or virtual servers running on a virtual host in the DR environment, we then keep them in sync with the backup recovery points. So every time you then create an incremental snapshot, we replicate just that small amount of data change to your DR environment, and then it wakes up and creates a bootable VM snapshot against that DR clone. So you can set the policy of how many virtual recovery points are available to boot up from, and by default it will always prompt you to start up from the latest recovery point. But if you had some sort of server corruption, you needed to roll back to a backup taken a couple of days ago, with our virtual standby technology, you can power on the server to any previous recovery point as well. So this is, maybe you don't need to use this on all your servers, but it allows customers to automate the DR process and have the environment ready to go at a moment's notice if any of their production servers fails. We also provide this capability at a local level without replication, and we call that local virtual standby. So these are all leading technologies, all about designed to improve your recovery time objective and get your environment up and running as quickly as possible. We've also got the next level of protection, which is our high availability technology. So as well as providing the ability to recovery points. As I said before, we can also do live replication of servers, and if any of those servers have a problem, we can then set them up for high availability. Now, the difference between this technology and remote virtual standby, which I just described previously, is that this is real-time replication. So when we switch over to a virtual clone or a physical to physical, or a cluster to physical or virtual, depending on what scenario you need to set up, when that DR server starts up, it starts up to the last block of data replicated. So this is giving you a near zero RPO solution for more critical environments where any amount of data loss would impact the business. And it allows you to do very cost-effective, high availability of your more critical servers without having to go out and buy a very expensive, all-encompassing solution, which is very hardware dependent. Our solution is completely storage agnostic. We also have automated DR testing as part of our replication HA technology. So if you're replicating critical servers to your DR environment, you need to have the peace of mind that if you ever had to invoke a DR switchover, you would know that it would actually work. So one of the ways that we can help test that for you on a regular basis is by automating the disaster recovery testing. We can build a DR test schedule. It will allow you to connect into your DR environment. It will power on all your virtual machines. It will start them up on an isolated test subnet. It will make sure the server starts successfully, and any additional services running on those servers like SQL services, Exchange, Oracle, SharePoint, etc. can all be checked to make sure the services are running. And once all those tests have been done, it will then power down the environment and give you detailed test reports. So the assured recovery DR testing is a really key part of the overall solution. It gives you that confidence and peace of mind that if you did have to invoke a DR plan, you know it would actually work, and you wouldn't actually be caught out with something not working as you would expect. So really, when you're looking at designing a backup and a disaster recovery and a business continuity solution, there are sort of key metrics that help you define what the service levels should be. And in the disaster recovery language, we have two key metrics that get mentioned, not just by CA, but across the whole industry. One is what we call the recovery point objective, which really determines how often should you protect the data on your critical servers. A good example would be, for example, if you were backing up a server once a day, and you had to then recover that system the following afternoon because you had a major outage on one of your servers, the IT department would be probably quite confident that for one process or another they could rebuild that server and get it up and running again. But the challenge you would have is that that server would be recovered to last night's backup recovery point. And for many customers, once every 24 hours has been the sort of industry standard for recovery points for many years. But I think in today's modern world where we all depend on IT infrastructure more than ever before, often having a daily recovery point is not adequate for some of your more critical servers. And also the recovery time objective, which is basically how long will it take you to recover after you have a failure. Obviously, the faster you can recover, the better, because there's less downtime to the business. So we provide different types of technology at CA, ranging from traditional file-based backups, image-based backups, which allow you to do backups more regularly, maybe every so many hours, instead of just doing your backups every day, like you've done for many years. We've even got continuous replication and high availability, which gives you real-time data protection and immediate switchover of service. Then we've got the image-based restore process that can do fast DR restores of servers, maybe within hours, minutes to hours, and then you've got your traditional kind of restore process, which could take hours to days. And really, we provide a choice of different technologies depending on what your service level agreements to the business are. You can then design the appropriate level of protection depending on the criticality of the server. And what we hope that we can do is help organizations reduce cost. Often we are doing a lot of renewals where we're cross-grading some of our existing customers, but also a lot of new customers as well, where we will look at your costs of the project and what you need to have to manage the project and actually give you a solution which has much more capability than what you previously had. So for the cost of your backup solution, often we can give you a full backup and disaster recovery solution at the same kind of cost that you pay per annum for your existing maintenance. We also allow you to reduce complexity, because if you have a customer that has a mixture of physical and virtual infrastructure, it's quite likely that you'll be using two backup products. You'll be using a niche backup solution for your virtual environment, and you may be using a traditional backup product for your physical servers, and that means you've got multiple interfaces, you've got more training for staff, to more restore processes that you need to consider. And there's also a lot of lack of integration between the technologies. So if you're doing disk to tape copies of your VMware backups, for example, onto tape, the chances are that if you try to do a restore from tape, you wouldn't have any visibility of what files are on those sessions. So it'd be very difficult to find the data that you're looking for to do a restore from. And also, we can help you improve capability as well, because as I've said before, we can provide an end-to-end solution that can take care of your data protection recovery, your off-site replication, your remote site protection, and business continuity if required using our technology. Now, we've introduced a new exciting way to license ARCserve now to really simplify the whole process. We still do have traditional ways of licensing ARCserve, like many other backup vendors have, by the number of agents and options, etc. But what we've tried to do is we're trying to really change the way that customers buy backup and data protection technology. So we have two bundles available. One is called the ARCserve RPO bundle, which is really our disaster recovery bundle, and this provides unlimited use of ARCserve Backup, unlimited use of our D2D image-based snapshot technology, and it also includes technology like remote virtual standby and our VMware integrated backup, etc. And it also includes unlimited use of our replication technology to replicate your backup recovery points between sites and provide an automated DR solution. And then we have what we call the ARCserve RPO and RTO bundle, which is everything that's in the RPO bundle plus unlimited use of our replication for applications and high availability to provide real-time switchover of servers. And these bundles are licensed on the number of physical CPU sockets across your virtual server infrastructure. If you do have physical servers as well, we can also take care of that as well as part of this licensing initiative. So we can look at that and provide a cost-effective, very flexible license. And I do encourage you to speak to MJ Flood, who are our premier partner in Ireland. They can look at your infrastructure, provide the most cost-effective way and the most flexible way to provide a backup and recovery solution and disaster recovery and business continuity. The MJ Flood team also have a full services division who are trained and accredited to implement the ARCserve technology to a very high standard, and they have lots of experience working with some very enterprise-sized projects across Dublin and Ireland where they've implemented the ARCserve technologies to provide great solutions for some of our leading customers in the Irish market. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up for some questions. And we've actually had a number of questions submitted electronically. We have one question here to say, can you please reconfirm that you provide physical and to virtual disaster recovery? Yes, that's a very good question, because we can, as well as being able to do physical BMR, what a lot of customers are trying to achieve now is they want to set up a virtual infrastructure for disaster recovery. Now, the challenge is if you're using a lot of virtual server specific technologies, they can provide a solution to protect virtual to virtual, but often you're left in the dark with your physical environment, and how do you protect that? So with the ARCserve technology, we can do virtual to virtual and also physical to virtual disaster recovery by backing up physical servers, replicating those recovery points, and using virtual standby we can create virtual clones from your physical server images. But we've also got real-time protection physical to virtual as well with our full system HA technology, part of our replication technology, that allows you to clone complete system images, physical or virtual, and replicate that to a virtual environment. So that's a good question. We have another question here as well. It says, I want to move to a disk-based backup but have a requirement to retain backups elsewhere for longer term protection. is there a way that I can do this in a cost-effective way? That's a very good question, because there's different ways you could manage that process, I suppose. One way is that you could use very good disk-to-disk deduplicate technology, which allows you to deduplicate the backup sets on disk and then hold them for months and months. But the challenge with that technology is it can be quite expensive. The other way that you can do it, which a lot of our customers do, is that they will buy cost-effective SATA storage, which is fairly high performance. It could be running as direct or SAN attached or fiber attached to a server. It has a separate RAID controller, and they can give you high performance backup to disk. But obviously you're not going to have the disk capacity there to hold backups indefinitely. So what a lot of our customers have been doing is they've been upgrading their tape technology, maybe from an old unreliable LTO 1 or 2 drive up to something like an LTO 5 drive. For example, with an LTO 5 tape now, you can get 32 terabytes of data compressed on a cartridge. So this still provides a very cost-effective way to store backup sets for long periods of time. So what a lot of our customers are doing, they're backing up to disk. They may set the policy, for example, to keep 30 days worth of backups, the latest 30 days worth of recovery points on disk, and then every week or every month they do a disk to tape migration, and then they can keep those backup sets on tape for a year, 2 years, 5 years, depending on how long they want to keep it. So that's what I would recommend, is use a combination of disk and tape technology to give you both a fast short-term backup and recovery off disk, but then use tape as almost a second stage for long-term archive of your backup sets. Okay, another question here, which is a little bit more specific. I see Veeam version 7 now supports tape backup. How does this compare to the CA ARCserve solution? That's a pretty good question as well. Yes, that's correct. Veeam have just launched tape support in Veeam version 7. We've been looking at this quite closely to kind of really ascertain how good the tape support is. One thing I can say is that ARCserve has come through the other end of the market, where we've been managing tape technology and tape library units for the last 20 years in our backup product. So our tape technology is very, very mature. And this is really comes into play now. So if you were doing a disk to tape migration using ARCserve, for example, every recovery point that we migrate to tape, we can do a granular restore from. And not only can we do a granular restore from it, we can recover it directly from tape straight back to the production client. With Veeam, for example, you can do 2 types of backup to tape. You can do a recovery point backup to tape, which allows you to do disk to tape at a kind of session raw backup level. And the good thing about that is it's easy to do. The downside, however, is if you want to do a file level restore from that recovery point session, you have to recover the whole session back to disk first, and then use the Veeam technology on disk to do the individual file recovery. The other option is you have to do a file copy to tape, and the challenge with that is it means that you're doing duplicate backups to tape copies, because you're going to do full recovery points and file level backups, which is duplicating the amount of storage you need on tape. The other challenge that you may find with Veeam as well is that they don't support hardware encryption on tape drives. So if you want to encrypt your backups, you would have to use some sort of software encryption first. And also, if you want to use a kind of shared tape library in a SAN configuration, there's no kind of integration there with the Veeam technology as well, and we can manage more enterprise class tape library units, share them across multiple backup servers, etc. So there's a lot of things that we can do, but I believe that we have far more maturity in that kind of space. Okay, I think that's all the questions. One thing I just want to remind is we are running a competition. We are going to pick one of our lucky attendees today to see if they can win a Wenger Swissgear laptop bag. So these are really the state-of-the-art laptop bags. They're made by the same company that make the Swiss Army knife, so they're very trendy and cool and very robust. So the MJ Flood marketing team are going to pick a lucky winner from the hat, and after this event, and they will notify the winning attendee if they've won a laptop bag. So I just want to thank you for your time today. I hope you've enjoyed the session. If you do have any questions at all, please get in contact with MJ Flood. They have a great team of salespeople that can help you. As I said previously, they also have a full technical team here who are ARCserve accredited as well, and I'm sure they can give you all the advice you need to advise you around the potential of using ARCserve to protect your infrastructure. So thank you, and thank you for your time.